what if the ones closest to us, the ones we've trusted our whole lives, were someone else entirely?
Agent Prescott, respectfully, what exactly are you talking about?
Skrulls. Oh, come on, Ross, you know the stories. Chaos. And that's only the beginning. 5 global terrorist strikes within the past year.
The atmosphere has been tense.
There is an architect to that tension, Agent Ross. These attacks are escalating. If they hit the soil of a major power, this didn't start yesterday. It started 30 years ago when the Skrulls found Earth. Taxed Colombia. Colombia taxed the Philippines. Carol Danvers and Nick Fury promised to find them a new planet. But now they don't want just any planet. They want ours. Skrulls could be anybody, anywhere, at any time.
And there is only a tiny handful known to live on Earth. That's barely enough to...
To what?
Okay, Prescott, let's play a little game of forest for the trees, shall we? Yes, Skrulls can shapeshift. Yes, they're looking for a new home.
You have no goddamn idea what you're talking about, Ross.
But as you say, the only Skrull contact has been through Nick Fury. That means there are allies.
A violent chain reaction consuming the globe. You realize that the entire world is at war? And where is Fury?
He's on Saber. God, and if I'm gonna bring him down for whatever the hell this is, I need to give him something more than just theories. I need evidence.
All these other attacks, compared to this is the one that sets the world on fire.
Let me take this, and I'll give the information to Fury, okay?
That invasion is here, Rhodey.
And we can't even tell who the invaders are.
This is a ticking time bomb.
And it was you who lit the match.
You're the most wanted man on the planet.
Well, Mama always said I was special.
Nick Fury in Marvel Studios' Secret Invasion, streaming June 21st, only on Disney+.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Marvel just released the first 5 minutes of Secret Invasion Episode 1. The series is premiering really soon. That's why they did this big viral marketing campaign. There's a whole bunch of stuff they're setting up in this clip, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, I'm doing videos for all the episodes. I'll also do a special giveaway during the episode videos too, so be sure to subscribe to get them all. If you didn't see it in your feeds this morning, they were releasing these viral teasers with this big, full Charlie Day meme chartboard, like big conspiracy theory chartboard. And it's meant to be a version of the one you see in the opening scene here. During the opening scene, you see Everett Ross come back. It's been a little while since the end of the Black Panther Wakanda Forever movie. I believe we're well into the year 2026 in the MCU at this point. They're in Moscow, and he's communicating with the CIA agent on the DL. Val doesn't know about it, or maybe she does, and she's just letting it happen. Like she kind of did that during Black Panther Wakanda Forever, because she just arrested him and is probably keeping tabs on him on the DL, but she's got her own plans I'll explain later. But he's still trying to work with Nick Fury, who started to discover the Skrull secret invasion plot. It seems like a lot of other people haven't figured it out yet. You probably remember Richard Dormer from Game of Thrones. He played Beric Dondarrion.
Thoros, how many times have you brought me back?
It's the Lord of Light brings you back.
The closest we get to flaming swords in the MCU would be Kit Harington's Black Knight character, to make more Game of Thrones references, with the ebony blade, but technically that doesn't light on fire. It is funny to see a bunch of Game of Thrones actors, especially Emilia Clarke, who's playing Talos' daughter during the series, show up in the MCU now. Cannot wait to see if we'll ever see any crossover between Emilia Clarke's character and Kit Harington's Black Knight character. Don't I remember you from somewhere? Have you ever tried to kill me before? And the reason why he's contacting Everett Ross is because he knows that only a few people have access to Nick Fury, and he's really trying to get Nick Fury to come on the case, come down from the Saber space station. The other interesting thing here, too, is that it makes it sound like the Saber space station itself, like the actual space station, is common knowledge amongst the CIA. So I'm assuming this means that Val knows about it, too. There haven't really been that many references to it in the other Marvel movies or the other Marvel series so far. He's yelling about all these attacks happening all over the world, blaming them on the Skrulls, who are pretending to be the different human terrorist groups. But it's just one group, it's just the group of Skrulls. They're led by a character named Gravik, who's part of the original group of Skrulls that Talos comes from. They're meant to be good, like Skrulls are meant to be good in general in the MCU, but the whole idea is that this is meant to be a rogue faction from that same group. The big evidence that he gives to Everett Ross that he claims is big enough to warrant Nick Fury wanting to come down from the Saber space station is the larger Skrull plot to impersonate world leaders, probably the President of the United States. Big tipping point for the world, like this will set the world on fire if they wind up being successful. What would be worse if they wind up replacing a bunch of the world leaders? The reason he probably tackles him after Everett Ross is like, you know what, let me look at this for a little while, I'll take it to Nick Fury, is probably just because he's worried that Everett Ross is also a Skrull. During the rest of the trailer footage, you see Nick Fury meeting with Rhodey. Rhodey has become the Secretary of State replacing Thunderbolt Ross. That's the job that he had during Captain America Civil War. I think they'll explain what happened with that sometime during the series. I just did a Captain America 4 first look video because they released a new teaser. They've already recast the Thunderbolt Ross character with Harrison Ford, so he's meant to be the same version of Thunderbolt Ross, just a new actor. And by the events of Captain America 4, he's supposed to have become the US president, but I don't think that that's happened yet. Like, he hasn't become the president at the beginning of this series, but I think they will explain what happened to him and how Rhodey became the new right-hand man to this US president. But I think that's the whole reason why Nick Fury would go to him and not one of the other Avengers characters, because the plot the Skrulls have involves replacing the US president. Based on the trailer footage, it also seems like the Skrulls are impersonating Nick Fury to pin some of the chaos, some of the terrorist attacks on him, so that the damage control starts coming after him so that it'll leave them free, like he won't be able to stop the Skrulls from finishing their plot to take over the world. For those of you asking too, because they do reference the Avengers characters heavily during a lot of these trailers in the series, and they were a big part of the Secret Invasion arc in the comics. Maybe they talk about going to the other Avengers, but the reason why they're busy, why they can't help out, is because Hulk just found out about his son Scar on Sakaar, so he's trying to deal with that. Doctor Strange is in the completely different dimension. He's in the dark dimension with Clea, dealing with the incursions in the Kang Multiverse War leading up to Avengers 5 Kang Dynasty. Wong is still in Kamar-Taj, trying to deal with larger multiverse problems like the incursions and train the new initiates. Hawkeye is still retired. Right now, Thor's in a different part of the universe with Gorr's daughter, rescuing various alien races, and Captain Marvel is still in Kree Skrull space in another part of the universe where there's this ongoing war of expansion that the Kree have been waging this whole time. The only other characters that would be relevant would be like Sam Wilson's Captain America and Bucky, and they're basically doing the same thing that they were doing during the Falcon and Winter Soldier series. Like, even though he's become the new Captain America and Bucky's been pardoned by the United States, during Falcon and Winter Soldier episodes, they were basically going on missions, just earning money, basically taking down arms dealers, dealing with smaller problems around the globe. They're just continuing to do that. So when Everett Ross is like, yeah, this is business as usual, there are problems all over the globe, Sam Wilson and Bucky are still dealing with that stuff, like official above-board stuff. Don't be surprised, though, if there are other Avengers cameos and a lot of references to those characters during the episodes. But one of the biggest new scenes here is of Emilia Clarke's Gia character entering this chamber that the evil Skrulls, or the bad faction of Skrulls, were building in all the previous trailers in this abandoned Russian nuclear power plant. They're using the power plant to power their device here. She activates it and power surrounds her with energy, and it looks like a classic Marvel power upgrade type of scene, like a big glow-up power upgrade for her. The energy in the device just evolving her Skrull powers, turning her into a Super Skrull like some of the other younger generation of Skrulls during this. One of the big things that's happening, like you see some of them use their Super Skrull powers, like this is Gravik, the leader of the evil faction of Skrulls. Supposedly the younger generation, like this evil faction, is trying to turn themselves into Super Skrulls, like give themselves even more powers that the older generation of Skrulls, like the good Skrulls, Talos' group, doesn't have. Making them a little more like the Skrulls that invaded Earth during the original comic book Secret Invasion, able to actually mimic the powers of the Avengers, the X-Men, and their villains. And it seems like a big part of that plot is giving themselves more powers, like turning themselves into Super Skrulls. One of the reported things, too, there's been a lot of rumors about Emilia Clarke's character turning into like a version of comic book Abigail Brand. Reportedly, some of these new powers that she gains is the ability to create green fire or green energy, kind of like Abigail Brand's X-Men powers in the comics. And I think part of the idea during this, like you see her cradling her father Talos' body as he's attacked here. I don't know if he's going to die, but I think part of the idea is that she'll become Nick Fury's new right-hand person on this Saber space station in sort of like a version of MCU Abigail Brand, but she'll just be using that name as an alias. There's been a lot of fan art of her as Abigail Brand. Obviously, she wouldn't look exactly like this when she's working with Nick Fury in the future, but you kind of get the idea, you get the vibe of the character. Like, the idea is that she would become a much bigger character in the future of the MCU, the same way that Kit Harington, another Game of Thrones alumni, as the Black Knight, would become a bigger character in the future of the MCU. Everybody just waiting to hear the Black Knight say that he doesn't want whatever Gia, Emilia Clarke's character, is trying to give him. One of the big differences from the comics, though, they have this whole plot here where the Skrulls are trying to give themselves more powers, evolve themselves into Super Skrulls. During the comic book invasion, the Skrulls that invaded had the ability to mimic the powers of all of Earth's heroes, and normally Skrulls don't have that ability. Like, normal Skrulls only have the cosmetic ability to change their form. Part of the whole idea, though, is that Secret Invasion, like, once everybody learns about the Skrulls, people like Thunderbolt Ross and Val, they'll use that paranoia to their own advantage and gain positions of power, and it's meant to lead into a Dark Reign era of Marvel Phase 5, like Secret Invasion of the comics led to Dark Reign. Like, that happened right after Norman Osborn got a lot of that storyline, but in the MCU, I think they're giving a lot of that to Thunderbolt Ross and Val. Kingpin is also kind of doing his own version of that too, becoming mayor of New York City by the events of Daredevil Born Again, but the Echo episodes will happen before that. Like, they just announced that all the Echo episodes, all 6 of them, will drop simultaneously in November. Daredevil and Kingpin are really big characters during that, so we'll find out what they're doing right now, and I believe by the end of that, like as we head into the beginning of Daredevil Born Again, which will happen right after, that's where Kingpin becomes mayor of New York City. But the whole idea, the whole vibe with Dark Reign and Marvel Phase 5 is villains taking positions of power, and how do the heroes, like how do the Avengers characters deal with that? There's a bunch of big videos that I'm working on right now. There have been some cool reports about Avengers 6 Secret Wars that support some of my theories about the legacy Marvel actors coming back again, like Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man, the other legacy X-Men actors. I'll try to finish all those videos as quickly as possible. Everyone click here for my new Iron Man Armor Wars teaser video, and click here to learn about how Robert Downey Jr. of all people almost became Doctor Doom of the Marvel movies. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.